my lovely people. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Catherine, your teacher, your guide, and your friend in this journey through words, thoughts, and life. If you've been listening for a while, you already know what to do. Grab your headphones, slow down for a bit, and let's take a deep breath together. Today, I want to talk about something that feels personal, even if we don't always admit it out loud. The feeling of emptiness. That strange sense that you have everything you once hoped for. Maybe the job, the house, the relationship, the achievements. And yet something's missing. Something doesn't feel right. You might look around and think, why do I feel this way when everything seems fine? Now, before we unravel that feeling, just a quick reminder. Don't just listen. Shadow my speech. Repeat words, feel the rhythm, and most importantly, feel the words. Learning English is not just about knowing grammar. It's about sounding natural, emotional, and real. So when I say something new or challenging, I'll pause a bit, and I want you to repeat it out loud. Don't be shy. We're in this together. All right, let's talk. So, have you ever been lying in bed at night staring at the ceiling and suddenly felt like life is just moving past you like a blur? You're doing all the right things. Waking up on time, working hard, staying connected with people, and still, deep inside, there's this void you can't explain. That, my friend, is what we're diving into today. Sometimes this emptiness creeps in slowly. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up when you're scrolling through your phone for hours, not even enjoying it. It shows up when you're surrounded by people but feel completely alone. And let me tell you something, you're not broken. You're not alone. You're not strange. You're human. Let's pause here for a second. I just used the word creeps, as in the feeling creeps in slowly. That means it enters quietly, secretly, without you noticing at first. Not breaking that word down now, but just wanted you to hold on to that expression. Now, I remember this one evening. I was sitting at my favorite cafe, sipping coffee, people watching as usual. Everything looked perfect from the outside. I had just finished a huge project, had some exciting things planned for the weekend, and yet there it was, that strange hollowness in the pit of my stomach. It made no sense. And you know what makes it harder? When you try to tell someone how you feel, and they reply with, "But you have so much to be grateful for." Yes, gratitude is powerful, but it doesn't erase emotions. It doesn't cancel out that weight inside you. Sometimes the more we push that emptiness down, the stronger it comes back. Wait a minute. I just used a word there, cancel out. It's a phrase that means to eliminate the effect of something. So when I said it doesn't cancel out the weight inside you, I meant it doesn't remove or undo that feeling. All right, quick repetition break. Come on, say it with me. Cancel out. Again, cancel out. One more time for good measure. Cancel out. Good? Okay, let's move on. Here's the thing. Our world is noisy. Constant notifications, endless comparisons, and this silent pressure to always be on. We're constantly performing. Even our happiness sometimes feels like a performance. We post pictures, share updates, smile in selfies. But somewhere beneath all that, we're grappling with a deeper question. Is this it? Hold on a second. I just said grappling. Let's break that one down. To grapple with something means to struggle with it, especially when you're trying to understand or deal with something difficult. It's a heavy word emotionally speaking. You don't grapple with small stuff. You grapple with fear, with purpose, with doubt. All right, come on now. Let's say it together. Grapple. Again, grapple. Come on, louder this time. Grapple. One last time, imagine you're teaching it to someone else. Grapple. Let's put it in a sentence. She grappled with her decision for days before finally saying yes. Let's see this word in another sentence. He's been grappling with his identity since he moved to a new country. Still with me? Good. Let's get back to our story. So, why do we feel empty even when everything's technically going well? Well, part of it is because success doesn't always align with meaning. You can succeed by ticking all the boxes society gives you, but if none of them truly reflect you, you'll end up feeling like a stranger in your own life. Sometimes we chase things just because everyone else is chasing them. Degrees, jobs, relationships, lifestyles. And we never stop to ask, do I actually want this? Or am I just scared of being left behind? Let's pause here for a moment. I just said chase. A simple word, right? But used metaphorically here, it means to pursue something with effort and energy. Not breaking this one today, just highlighting it. The other part of emptiness comes from emotional disconnect. We might be so used to hiding how we feel that even we don't know anymore. We go through the motions, wake up, eat, work, sleep, and somewhere our soul checks out. We forget to feel. And when you don't feel for long enough, emptiness becomes the default. Let me tell you something. Feeling empty doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It might mean that something around you isn't serving you anymore. It could be the people, the job, the environment, or even your own expectations. And that brings us to the next word. Let's pause again. I just used the word serve it in a slightly different way. Something isn't serving you anymore. When we say that, we mean something is no longer helpful, supportive, or useful in your life. Let's break it down. To serve in this context means to provide a benefit or purpose. You can serve food, sure, but here it's about emotional or mental service. Come on now, say it with me. Serve. Again, serve. Come on, you can do better. Serve. One last time, give it your best. Serve. Let's put it in a sentence. That friendship used to bring me joy, but now it no longer serves me. Another one. She left the job because it didn't serve her values anymore. See how we're slowly peeling back the layers? This episode is not about finding answers, by the way. It's about asking better questions. Questions that dig deeper. Questions that help you get honest with yourself. And remember, this isn't about being dramatic. It's about being real. Feeling empty doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you human. So let's stop pretending everything is perfect and start getting curious about what's really going on inside. So, if you're still here with me, thank you. And if you're feeling something right now, even if it's confusion or discomfort, that's a good thing. That means you're not numb. That means there's still movement inside you. You're alive. And that feeling you can't quite put into words yet, we're going to figure it out together. Let me ask you something. Have you ever achieved something that you worked so hard for? Maybe a promotion, maybe a relationship, maybe moving to a new city. And then once you got it, you felt nothing? Not joy, not pride, just emptiness. Like your mind said, good job, but your heart stayed silent. It's such a strange paradox, right? We chase goals, we tick boxes, we do all the things we're supposed to do, and still, something feels off. The applause fades, the excitement wears off, and you're left wondering, was that it? You see, sometimes we confuse external milestones with internal fulfillment. They're not the same. And I'm not saying that achievements don't matter. They absolutely do. But they're not a substitute for meaning. They're not a cure for disconnection. And I think a lot of people feel empty because they're constantly trying to fill their lives with more work, more people, more noise, instead of actually understanding what that emptiness is trying to tell them. Have you noticed how afraid we are of silence? Like truly afraid. We fill every moment with sound. We scroll, we refresh, we consume, because if we stop, we might have to face ourselves. And that's terrifying. I once had a phase where I was working nonstop. Back-to-back meetings, constant deadlines, and I told myself I was being productive. But deep down, I was running from myself, from questions I didn't want to ask, from feelings I didn't want to feel. And that brings me to the next word I want to break down, one that perfectly describes what I was doing at the time. I evaded the truth. So let's pause here and break it down. The word is evade. Say it with me. Evade. Again, evade. To evade something means to avoid it in a clever or dishonest way. But it's not just about running away. It's about sidestepping something you know is important but uncomfortable. Here are a few examples. She evaded the topic every time someone brought up her past. He evades responsibility by blaming others. They evaded answering the real question by changing the subject. Evading emotions is one of the biggest reasons people feel hollow. Because the truth doesn't disappear just because we dodge it. It waits, patiently, until we're ready. And you know what's wild? Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. We create this image of ourselves, this version that looks strong, successful, composed, and we hide behind it. But authenticity is not about perfection. It's about wholeness. And wholeness includes the messy parts. I remember sitting in a room full of people once, laughing, talking, pretending, and suddenly I felt so out of place, so detached. I wasn't being fake, but I wasn't being real either. I was somewhere in between, like a shadow of myself. That moment stayed with me, because that's when I realized being surrounded doesn't mean being connected. Let me say that again. Being surrounded doesn't mean being connected. And sometimes we crave connection so badly that we start to compromise. We show only the parts of ourselves that feel safe, acceptable, likable. And we start to suppress the parts that feel too much, too intense, too sensitive, too complicated. Let's pause here again. Did you catch that word I just used? Suppress. That's the next one I want to break down. Say it with me. Suppress. Again. Suppress. One more time. Suppress. To suppress means to hold something down, to keep it from coming to the surface. It could be emotions, thoughts, reactions, anything that you don't want others to see. Here are some examples. She suppressed her tears during the meeting. He suppressed his anger to keep the peace. They suppressed their dreams because they didn't seem realistic. And the danger of suppression is that it doesn't make things go away. It just buries them. And buried things don't stay buried forever. They show up in other ways. In anxiety, in numbness, in fatigue, in disconnection. That's why so many people wake up one day and say, I don't know who I am anymore. It's not because they've changed. It's because they've spent years suppressing the parts that mattered. So if you're feeling that hollowness, that emotional distance from yourself, please know it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're overdue for honesty, for gentleness, for alignment. Let yourself feel again, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. And emptiness, it might just be the one that's been waiting for the longest to be heard. So let's breathe together for a second. Just breathe in outside. No fixing, no rushing, just being here. Because sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to stay with the discomfort instead of distracting yourself from it. And I know that's not easy. Not when the world around you keeps telling you to move faster, smile wider, and be okay even when you're not. But here's the truth. You don't owe the world a performance. You owe yourself presence. And presence means meeting yourself exactly where you are, even if that place is foggy or fragmented or not as polished as you'd like it to be. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about how much we resist rest. Like, real rest. The kind that isn't about Netflix in the background or scrolling on autopilot, but about actually slowing down enough to feel the stillness. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable that stillness can be? And sometimes when we finally stop, that emptiness we've been pushing away creeps back in. It's like we've built a dam to keep it all out. And the second we pause, the cracks start showing. And then we panic. We reach for our phones, our routines, our distractions, anything to avoid the stillness. But that silence, that stillness, that's where the truth lives. That's where we begin to hear the quiet parts of ourselves, the ones we've neglected, the ones that whisper instead of scream. And that leads me to the next word I want to break down, because it fits perfectly here. In that exact moment when we feel the stillness creeping in, most of us tend to resist it. So let's take a second and break it down. The word is resist. Say it out loud with me. Resist. Again, resist. To resist something means to push against it, to fight it off, to refuse to accept or surrender to it. Here are a few examples. He resisted the urge to check his phone during the conversation. She resisted crying even though her heart felt like it was breaking. They resisted change because it made them feel unsafe. Resisting isn't always bad. Sometimes it's necessary. But emotional resistance, that's where it gets tricky. Because when we resist emotions, we're not protecting ourselves. We're just prolonging the pain. And that pain turns into something deeper. Numbness, disconnection, or that haunting emptiness we keep circling back to. You know what helps with that? Curiosity. I swear that's one of the most powerful tools we have, and it's so underrated. When you get curious instead of judgmental, everything shifts. Instead of saying, "What's wrong with me?" you start asking, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" And yes, I know that sounds poetic, but it's also deeply practical, because when you approach your emptiness with curiosity, you stop running from it. You start learning from it. You give it space to speak. And often, it's not saying you're broken, it's saying you've been carrying too much alone. I had this moment last year. I was sitting by the window with a cup of tea. It was raining, the kind of slow, gentle rain that somehow matches your mood. And I just sat there. I didn't journal. I didn't analyze. I just sat. And in that moment, I didn't feel productive or busy or impressive. I just felt real. Like for the first time in a long time, I had nothing to prove. And that little flicker of peace, that came because I didn't resist the quiet. But we're not taught to slow down. We're taught to project strength, to keep going, to post a smiling selfie even when we're unraveling inside. And the more we project, the more disconnected we become from our truth. And yes, that's the next word I want to break down, because it perfectly fits the way we sometimes try to protect ourselves. That word is project. Let's break it down. Say it with me. Project. Again, project. One more time. Project. To project something, in this emotional context, means to place your own feelings, insecurities, or thoughts onto someone or something else. often without realizing it. For example, he projected his own fears onto her and accused her of being distant. She projected confidence, but inside she felt lost. They projected blame instead of taking responsibility. We all do this sometimes. We project strength to hide vulnerability. We project calm to mask chaos. But when we get stuck in projection, we forget how to connect, because you can't connect from behind a mask. You connect through truth. And sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm here. I'm trying. That's enough. That's real. That's where healing begins. So if you've been feeling empty lately, ask yourself gently, am I resisting something? Am I projecting something? These questions aren't meant to shame you. They're meant to open a door, just a crack, just enough to let some light in. Because this isn't about fixing yourself. You're not a problem to solve. You're a person to love, especially by yourself, especially when it's hard. And here's something I want you to sit with for a second. What if the emptiness isn't something to fix, but something to understand? What if it's a message, not a malfunction? I want to ask you something. Have you ever had that moment, maybe in the shower, maybe driving, when suddenly a wave of emotion comes out of nowhere? Like you're fine, you're functioning, you're doing your thing, and then bam, a memory, a realization, a heaviness. You don't even know where it came from, but it's there, quiet, heavy. Real? Yeah. That's the emotional backlog we carry. It doesn't vanish. It waits. It lingers until we have no choice but to face it. And sometimes, when we finally notice it, we panic. We try to explain it away. We say, maybe I'm just tired, or maybe it's hormones, or maybe I just need coffee. But deep down, there's more. There's always more. And that's what happened to me recently. I was trying to get through my day, often answering emails, replying to texts, keeping up with deadlines, when suddenly I just froze. My hand was on the keyboard and I couldn't move. My chest tightened and I felt this intense urge to cry. And you know what the worst part was? I didn't even know why. That's when I knew something had to give. Something had to shift. And here's the word I used in my journal that day. A word I think fits perfectly into this conversation. Confront. So let's break that one down. Say it with me. Confront. Again. Confront. One more time. Confront. To confront something means to face it directly, especially something unpleasant, painful, or uncomfortable. It means you stop avoiding and instead look it in the eye. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Let me give you some examples, and I want you to say them out loud with me if you can, or at least repeat them in your mind. I had to confront the truth about my burnout. She finally confronted her fear of being alone. They needed to confront the tension between them instead of pretending it wasn't there. He confronted his childhood trauma after years of suppressing it. I want to confront my emotions instead of distracting myself from them. Can you think of something you might be avoiding? Something that needs to be confronted. Gently, not aggressively. It could be a conversation, a memory, a truth you've been keeping in the shadows. Just pause for a second and reflect. And now here's where it gets even more powerful. After I confronted that wave of sadness that hit me at the keyboard, I didn't try to fix it. I just sat there. I let the tears fall. I wrote what I felt. I didn't judge it. And you know what? That weight started to lift, not disappear, but lift just enough for me to breathe again. Sometimes that's all we need. A crack in the fog, a breath of space, a reminder that confronting doesn't mean collapsing, it means showing up. And showing up for yourself is the greatest act of love there is. And speaking of showing up, that And that brings me to another word I want to explore. I used it when I said, something had to shift. That's our second word for today, shift. Let's break that one down together. Say it with me, shift. Again, shift. One more time, shift. To shift means to move something slightly from one place or position to another. But emotionally and mentally, it also means changing perspective, changing energy, changing direction. Here are a few examples. And as I say each one, I want you to reflect on where it might apply in your life. She had to shift her mindset from survival to healing. I want to shift from constant comparison to self-compassion. They shifted the conversation from blame to understanding. He shifted his focus from what went wrong to what he learned. I'm trying to shift my energy from anxiety to acceptance. See how powerful that word is? It doesn't mean everything changes overnight. It means there's movement, a new direction, a fresh angle. Sometimes the smallest shift in how you talk to yourself can unlock something huge, like going from, "What's wrong with me?" to "What do I need right now?" That's a shift, a powerful one. So ask yourself, where in your life do you need a shift? Not a dramatic makeover, just a nudge, a breath, a new lens. I want to go back for a second to something I said earlier about feeling like you've frozen in place. That moment at the keyboard when I couldn't move, I realized I wasn't lazy. I wasn't unmotivated. I was overloaded, emotionally, mentally, energetically. And when we're overloaded, our system doesn't want to move forward until we create space. That's what these two words, confront and shift, help us do. One helps us face what's there, the other helps us move into something new. And that's the rhythm of healing. Face, move, pause, repeat. You don't have to leap. You don't have to fix everything today. But maybe you can confront one small feeling or shift one tiny thought. That's enough. Let's breathe here together just for a moment. Inhale, exhale. You're doing better than you think. You're braver than you feel. And you're not alone in this. And you know what's wild? Sometimes the moment you allow even the tiniest bit of honesty with yourself, that's when things start to open up. Not because everything becomes magically easy, but because you stop pretending. And when you stop pretending, you can start healing. It's like holding your breath for too long. At first, you don't even notice you're doing it. And then suddenly, you gasp. That's what happened to me after I confronted that frozen feeling. I started to feel not everything, all at once, but little things. A sunset, a song, a random childhood memory that made me laugh. It's like my body finally started trusting me again, letting the light back in. But here's the thing, and I want to say this gently. There's a big difference between knowing something and integrating it. That's the word I want to talk about next. I said it to a friend the other day when she told me she'd read every self-help book under the sun, but still felt stuck. And I looked at her and said, maybe it's not about knowing more. Maybe it's about integrating what you already know. All right, let's slow it down and break that word down together. The word is integrate. Say it with me, integrate. Again, integrate. One more time, integrate. To integrate something means to take it in and make it a real, living part of you. It's not just about learning or reading or hearing. It's about letting it become part of how you think, how you act, how you see the world. Let's make this real. Let's put it into a sentence. I'm trying to integrate more rest into my daily life, not just talk about it. After the retreat, she slowly integrated what she'd learned into her routine. It took time to integrate that truth that I'm allowed to say no. He's learning to integrate self-worth into his identity, not just chase external validation. We talk about boundaries, but have we really integrated them into our behavior? Take a second here. What's one lesson, just one, that you know in your head, but maybe haven't integrated into your heart, your actions, your rhythm yet? Just sit with that. You don't have to judge yourself. This is awareness. This is where real change begins. And while we're here, in this tender space between awareness and action, let's look at another word I think we don't give enough attention to. I've been feeling it a lot lately, especially in quiet moments. And that word is linger. Let's go ahead and break that one down too. The word is linger. Say it with me, linger. One more time, linger. To linger means to stay longer than expected. To remain present even after the moment has technically passed. It can be physical, emotional, even energetic. Let's put it into a few sentences. Say these with me. She let the last note of the song linger in the silence. The scent of his cologne lingered on her jacket. The pain didn't vanish. It lingered quietly. I felt his words linger in my mind long after he left. Some memories just linger no matter how much time passes. Isn't that such a powerful word? Linger. There's something bittersweet about it. Sometimes the things that linger are beautiful, like laughter from last night's dinner with friends. And sometimes they're heavier, like unspoken words, unresolved feelings, or regrets. And I've been noticing lately that some emotions linger not because we want them to, but because we haven't felt them fully yet. They're like visitors at the door, knocking, waiting to be invited in. The longer we pretend not to hear them, the longer they stay. So maybe the key is not to force them out, but to sit with them, listen, thank them for their message, and only then do they leave on their own. That's what I've been learning. Let me ask you something. What's something in your life right now that's lingering? A thought, a fear, a hope, a longing? Don't rush the answer. Just notice it. That's enough for now. I want to tell you about a moment last week. I was walking through my neighborhood, earbuds in, just letting my playlist shuffle through. And this old song came on. It's one I hadn't heard in years, and I swear it transported me. I remembered a road trip, a summer crush, a feeling I didn't know I still carried, and it lingered, not in a painful way, in a human way. Like, oh, I'm still holding that. And I smiled. Because sometimes letting something linger a little longer is part of how we let it go. So maybe today isn't about rushing to fix. Maybe it's about integrating what you already know and letting what still lingers just be. For now, you ever get that feeling where your body's in one place but your mind is already running ahead? Like you're brushing your teeth, but mentally you're in 3 different conversations, one worst-case scenario, and an imaginary argument you may or may not need to have someday. Yeah, that. I used to think that was just how life is. That it's normal to always be a step ahead of yourself. Planning, preparing, preempting. But then I realized maybe I was doing that to avoid sitting with the present. The right now. Because the present is quiet. And in the quiet, things rise up. Feelings, questions, truth. And I remember journaling one night and writing, almost without thinking, I need to reclaim my stillness. That word hit me hard. Reclaim. It came up in a voice memo I sent to a friend too, when I told her I was trying to reclaim parts of myself I'd given away too easily. To people, to expectations, to roles I didn't choose. Okay, let's pause and unpack that one together. The word is reclaim. Say it with me. Reclaim. Again, slowly. Reclaim. To reclaim means to get something back. Something that was lost, given away, taken or simply forgotten. It's like drawing a boundary and saying, this was mine. It still is. I'm taking it back. Let's toss that into a sentence. I'm learning to reclaim my time instead of giving it away to things that drain me. Try this. She decided to reclaim her voice after years of staying silent. Or imagine this. He reclaimed his joy one slow day at a time. Here's another. They reclaimed their identity after years of trying to fit in. And one more. Sometimes reclaiming your peace means walking away without guilt. Feel that? That word's got power. Because reclaiming isn't loud, it's intentional, it's gentle strength. It's that quiet moment when you realize you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. And as I sat with that word, another one kept popping up. One that I've heard tossed around in self-growth spaces, but we rarely slow down enough to really sit with it, and that word is cultivate. Let's break it down together now. The word is cultivate. Say it with me, cultivate. Once more, cultivate. To cultivate means to develop something over time. With care, with intention, with presence. It comes from farming, really. Nurturing soil, preparing space, giving something what it needs to grow. But emotionally, spiritually, we cultivate things in our lives all the time. Habits, mindsets, relationships, compassion. Let's put that into a few real-life moments. Here's one. I'm trying to cultivate more self-compassion instead of always being hard on myself. Now this. She cultivates trust slowly, but deeply. Picture this. They've cultivated a home where people feel safe to be themselves. Try this one. He's cultivating a life that aligns with his values, not just his obligations. And here's another. I want to cultivate more presence in everyday moments, even the ordinary ones. And I'll ask you this, softly. What are you cultivating right now? Whether intentionally or not. Because we're always cultivating something, even avoidance, even fear, even distraction. But what if you slow down long enough to cultivate something that actually feeds you, that gives back? I was sitting in a cafe yesterday. Quiet place, tiny plants on the windowsill, lo-fi music humming low. And this older woman next to me was knitting, just calmly, gently, stitch by stitch. I watched her hands move and I thought, this is what it looks like to cultivate peace. No rush, no audience, just presence. I want that. Not the knitting, necessarily, though maybe one day, but that energy, that quiet, rooted kind of joy that comes not from chasing, but from cultivating. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not fixing, not achieving, not arriving, but cultivating a little more softness, a little more truth, a little more of who you really are. Let me say something that might sound strange. I don't think the goal is to become someone else. I think the goal is to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And then slowly reclaim that version and cultivate it into something that's even deeper, wiser, and more grounded than before. It doesn't happen overnight. That's okay. Let's breathe right here. One inhale, one exhale. You're doing better than you think. You really are. And if all you do today is reclaim one moment of stillness or cultivate one small pause of peace, that's enough. That's everything. So here's something that's been circling my mind lately, kind of like a whisper that keeps returning. What does it mean to feel anchored in a world that constantly pulls you in 1,000 directions? Because let's be real. The scroll, the buzz, the comparison game, the endless notifications. It's easy to get swept up. Easy to start measuring your life by someone else's highlight reel. Easy to lose yourself in all the noise. And there are days when I catch myself reacting more than responding. You know that feeling? When you're just jumping from thing to thing, mood to mood, screen to screen. And your body might be here, but your mind is all over the place. That's when I know I've become disconnected from myself. And I don't mean that in some dramatic, existential way. I just mean I stopped checking in. I stopped asking the important questions. Like, how do I actually feel right now? What do I need? Am I saying yes because I want to or because I'm scared to say no? And on one of those days, I remember texting my friend, I feel like I need to recalibrate. That word just kind of spilled out, and as soon as I saw it on the screen, I knew I wanted to talk about it with you. So let's break that one down together. The word is recalibrate. Say it slowly. Recalibrate. To recalibrate means to adjust something again, to fine-tune it so it works properly. It's often used with machines or measurements, but when we talk about ourselves, it's that intentional reset. The pause. The moment where you say, this isn't working for me. Let me step back and align again. Let's put it in a few sentences. Try this. After weeks of stress, she needed to recalibrate and return to what really mattered. Let's throw in another. Sometimes a quiet weekend is all it takes to recalibrate your mind. Picture this. He recalibrated his goals after realizing he was chasing someone else's version of success. How about they recalibrated their relationship after months of miscommunication? Here's one more. You can recalibrate your boundaries anytime you're allowed to change. You see? It's not about giving up. It's about adjusting, honoring where you are, updating the settings. And we all need that, especially in a world that never really pauses. So, I did that. I took a Sunday to completely recalibrate. No plans, no agenda, just long walks, a slow breakfast, a messy journal page, some gentle music, and a lot of quiet. And in that quiet, a second word surfaced, something I felt deep in my chest. I whispered it out loud to myself like it was a truth I needed to remember. The word was nurture. Let's spend a little time with this one. The word is nurture. Repeat it softly with me. Nurture. To nurture means to care for something as it grows, to give it time, love, and the environment it needs to thrive. It's more than support. It's presence. It's intentional love. And it applies to everything. Your creativity, your relationships, your well-being, your dreams. Let's toss this into a few real-life moments. Here's one. She nurtured her creativity by making time for art every weekend. Let's try this. They nurtured their friendship through honest conversations and consistent support. Now this. He's learning to nurture his inner child instead of criticizing himself all the time. Here's another. I want to nurture a space where I feel safe just being myself. And one more. Nurturing your dreams takes time, but every small step counts. You feel that shift? Nurture isn't rushed. It's soft, it's deliberate, and I think sometimes we forget that we're allowed to nurture ourselves. We wait for others to do it. But what if you became your own biggest nurturer? What would it look like to nurture your boundaries? To nurture your body? To nurture your joy? Not perfectly? Not all at once. Just little by little. Moment by moment. Sometimes it starts with a cup of tea, or a playlist, or saying no, or going to bed early, or reading a book that holds you instead of scrolling through things that drain you. And slowly, you start to feel rooted again. Because the truth is, we can't grow in soil that's always being shaken. We need grounding, we need stillness, we need care. And when I think of what I want to give to this season of my life, I think of those two words, recalibrate and nurture. Recalibrate when something's off. Nurture what feels aligned. And that's not weak, that's wise. So I'll leave you with this, a question you can carry into your day. What's one small way you can recalibrate today? And what's one tiny thing you can nurture just for you? Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start small, start gently, but just start. You know, there's something quietly powerful about choosing not to rush. In a world that praises speed and urgency, where everyone seems to be sprinting towards something, more success, more validation, more output, there's something rebellious, something almost sacred about choosing slowness, choosing presence, choosing to be instead of just do. And that's not always easy, it's not always convenient, but I think it's necessary if we really want to live lives that feel meaningful, not just impressive. Lately, I've been thinking about how we don't just arrive at peace or confidence or clarity. We build it, one intentional brick at a time. And part of that process, letting go of the pressure to have it all figured out. I was on a walk the other day, just taking in the crisp air and the early golden light, and this thought floated in. It's okay if it's still unfolding, just like that. Soft, no judgment, just a quiet permission to trust the process. And as I was walking, I started reflecting on the way I used to navigate discomfort, how quickly I'd try to distract myself from it, how often I'd abandon myself in the name of keeping the peace, how I'd make myself small just to fit into spaces that were never meant for me. That word, navigate, it's been showing up a lot in my conversations lately. So, let's break it down together, yeah? Say it slowly with me. Navigate. To navigate means to find your way through something, especially something complex or unfamiliar. It's about steering, not always knowing exactly where you're headed, but choosing to move with awareness, with intention. Let's put that into a sentence. Try this. She had to navigate a difficult conversation with compassion and clarity. Here's another. They're navigating a big life transition right now, so they're giving themselves grace. And this one, he learned how to navigate his anxiety by building daily grounding rituals. Here's one more. I'm still navigating what balance looks like for me. And that's okay. And one final example. Sometimes we have to navigate uncertainty before we find direction. See how it's less about control and more about movement, more about grace than perfection? Because life doesn't come with a step-by-step manual, and healing definitely doesn't follow a straight line. So we learn to navigate gently, patiently, one breath at a time. I think of it like sailing through fog. You can't see the whole horizon, but you can still move forward. You can still adjust the sails. You can still trust the wind. And speaking of fog, that makes me think about how often we move through seasons that feel unclear, messy, undefined. We try to make sense of things that haven't finished unfolding yet. And in those seasons, I've found that one of the hardest and most powerful things you can do is to discern what's true for you. Let's break that one down now. The word is discern. Softly again, discern. To discern means to recognize or understand something clearly, especially when it's not obvious. It's not just seeing, it's seeing through. It's knowing what's right for you, even when the world is loud, even when your own thoughts are tangled. Let's put that in a few examples. Try this. She's learning to discern between her intuition and her fear. Here's another one. It took time to discern which relationships were nourishing and which were draining. And this. he discerned that his constant exhaustion wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. Let's go with this. I'm trying to discern what I want, not what's expected of me. And one more. We need to discern the difference between real connection and surface-level attention. There's something so empowering about learning how to discern, to pause before reacting, to listen before deciding, to trust your own inner compass even when the outside noise is deafening. Because discernment isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't beg for attention. It whispers, it nudges, it comes from stillness. And when I think about navigating anything, grief, transition, joy, growth, I think about how much easier it becomes when you've cultivated discernment, when you've built a relationship with your own truth. That's the kind of strength I want more of. Not the kind that pushes or forces or proves, but the kind that knows, quietly, steadily. And maybe that's the invitation for this part of your life. Not to rush, not to force, not to perform, but to navigate it with presence and to discern with gentleness. To say, I might not have all the answers right now, but I'm still moving. I'm still listening. I'm still showing up. You don't have to know everything to take the next step. You just have to trust that you'll figure it out along the way. So let's take that deep breath together. Inhale, exhale, and just ask yourself softly, what am I learning to navigate right now? And what's something I can discern more clearly today if I give myself the space to listen? You're still here. I love that. Sometimes just staying, just being here, is an act of quiet courage. I know life pulls at you from every direction. Notifications, deadlines, thoughts that spiral, people who expect things. But you chose this moment. You chose presence. And I don't take that lightly. I was journaling last night, and I wrote something down that I want to share with you. It said, I'm allowed to choose peace, even when chaos is louder. Read that again, or say it out loud with me. I'm allowed to choose peace, even when chaos is louder, because sometimes choosing peace means saying no. It means setting a boundary. It means disappointing someone else to stay true to yourself. And that's hard, especially if you're someone who spent most of your life trying to accommodate everyone else. That word, accommodate, it showed up in my journal too. And I thought, yes, we need to talk about that. So let's break it down together. You know the drill. Say it with me slowly. Accommodate. Come on now. Say it again. Accommodate. One more time. Don't leave me hanging. Accommodate. To accommodate means to adapt to someone else's needs, wishes, or circumstances. It can be generous. It can be kind. But when it's overused, when it becomes your default, it can lead to self-abandonment. Let's put it into a sentence. Yeah? Here we go. She always tried to accommodate everyone else's needs before her own, until she burned out. Let's do another. He accommodated their requests even when it meant neglecting his own priorities. Here's one more. I've been learning not to automatically accommodate others at the cost of my well-being. And another. We can accommodate someone's perspective without shrinking ourselves. Last one. Healthy relationships don't require constant accommodation. They invite mutual understanding. You feel that? So say it with me one more time. Accommodate. And the question I'll leave you with here is, when are you accommodating out of love? And when are you accommodating out of fear? Let that one linger, because love makes space. But fear shrinks us. Now, speaking of shrinking, let's talk about those times when we don't speak up. Not because we don't have something to say, but because we're scared it might not be welcomed. Because we've been taught that quiet means safe. I used to be terrified of being misunderstood, of taking up space with an opinion that wasn't palatable, of expressing something that made other people uncomfortable. But the truth is, real connection requires real expression, which brings me to the next word I want us to feel into, one that's been quietly shifting the way I show up. Ready? Say it with me. Articulate. Come on. Louder now. Articulate. Let it roll off the tongue again. Articulate. To articulate means to express something clearly, thoughtfully, and with precision. It's not about being loud. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest with yourself and with others. Let's explore that in some sentences, shall we? Here's one. She finally found the strength to articulate her boundaries, and everything changed. Another. He struggled to articulate how overwhelmed he was feeling. And this one. I'm learning to articulate my needs without apologizing for them. Let's do another. We can articulate difficult truths with compassion. And just one more for the road. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is learning how to articulate what's been hurting. You see how powerful that is? Say it one more time with me. Articulate. Again. Articulate? Yes. Articulate. Because when we articulate what's true, even if our voice shakes, we start living in alignment. We stop pretending. We stop performing. We stop editing our truth for the comfort of others. And that, my friend, is freedom. So here we are, in this quiet little corner of the world, repeating soft words with strength and intention. Accommodate. Articulate. Two sides of a coin, really. One reminds us to make space. The other invites us to fill it with truth. And here's something I want to offer you before we close this part. There is no award for being the most accommodating. There is no trophy for staying silent the longest. And there is no badge of honor for abandoning your truth just to make others comfortable. You were not born to tiptoe through your life. You were born to speak, to breathe, to exist fully, and you're allowed to do that. Even if your voice is soft, even if your timing isn't perfect, even if it's messy and awkward and not everyone claps for you, that's okay. Let them misunderstand. Let them adjust. Let them do their work. You do yours, which is to listen to yourself, to articulate what's real, and to stop accommodating everyone else at the expense of your soul. You still with me? Good. Stay with me a little longer. Let's not rush this moment. There's so much noise out there. Everyone telling you to move fast, to climb, to conquer. But here we pause. We slow down just enough to hear ourselves think, just enough to hear our own voice again. Because sometimes, in all that noise, we forget the sound of our own truth. And that's where the real ache begins. Not in the exhaustion, but in the disconnection from self. I was speaking with a friend recently who told me, I don't even know what I feel anymore. I'm just going through the motions. And that hit me. Because I've been there. Maybe you've been there too. Going through the motions, smiling when you're tired, saying yes when your soul screams no, laughing politely when you want to scream. It's like wearing someone else's shoes every day. They don't quite fit, but you've worn them so long you forgot what your own felt like. And that's why I wanted us to explore this word together, a word that we often ignore, but one that carries so much emotional weight. Say it with me. Suppress. Come on. Again. Suppress. Once more, out loud. Suppress. To suppress means to hold something back, to keep it hidden, buried, or restrained. It's often used when we talk about feelings. When we push them down because we're afraid they'll be too much. Let's put that into a sentence together. Here we go. He suppressed his grief for years, pretending everything was fine. Try another. She suppressed her anger so often that she forgot what it felt like to be truly honest. Let's use it in a different way. They were taught to suppress any sign of vulnerability. And again, when we suppress our pain, it doesn't go away. It just waits. Here's one more for now. Suppressing emotions might help in the short term, but they always find a way to resurface. Breathe that in. Suppress. 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 Come on, say it with me again. Suppress. There's a part of you that has been trying not to feel. I know, I've done it too. But the truth is, healing doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from giving it a voice. Because when we suppress, we shrink. And you? You were not born to shrink. You were born to soften and then expand. Speaking of expansion, let me share something I've been learning in my own life. It's this gentle but powerful idea of choosing to evolve instead of staying trapped in the same emotional loops. Because when we evolve, we break cycles. We rewrite stories. We move forward, slowly but with intention. So let's introduce the next word I want us to explore together. You ready? Say it out loud with me. Transcend. Again with feeling, transcend. Once more from your chest, transcend. To transcend means to go beyond. To rise above. It's when we move past something, a situation, a mindset, a pattern, and begin to operate from a higher place. Let's put that into a sentence. You know how we do. Here's one. She managed to transcend her trauma and create a life filled with joy. Let's try another. They learned to transcend their past mistakes and show themselves compassion. Another example. To transcend fear, we must first acknowledge it. Again, transcending anger doesn't mean ignoring it. It means responding to it from a place of understanding. And finally, he transcended the need for validation by grounding himself in his own worth. Let's repeat it again. Come on now. Transcend. 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 What I love about this word is that it doesn't mean we pretend things never hurt. It means we grow from them. It means we use our pain as compost for something better, something richer. Because healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming yourself, more fully, more truthfully, more gently. So today we're not suppressing anything. We're not hiding. We're not shrinking. We're transcending, but slowly, kindly, at your own pace. Say it with me once more before we end this part. Suppress. Transcend. Two very different words. One holds things in. The other rises above. And here's the beautiful truth. You get to choose which one guides you. Not perfectly, not all at once, but moment by moment. Maybe today you just feel the feeling instead of hiding it. That's transcendence. Maybe today you say, actually, I'm not okay. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of rising. So here we are again in our little language sanctuary, holding space for growth. Let's take a breath. You ever have one of those days where nothing big goes wrong, but it still feels like the weight of the world is sitting on your chest? Like the sky's clear, the world keeps turning, but inside, you're quietly unraveling? Yeah, I know that feeling too well. It's not always the breakdowns that get us. It's the slow burn of carrying things we don't talk about, the tension in your jaw from unspoken words, the ache in your spine from never fully resting, the sighs you release into empty rooms because no one's around to hear them. And we don't always know how to explain that kind of heaviness. It's not sadness, it's not anger, it's this quiet, aching disconnect. Like you're here, but not really here. So let's talk about that in-between feeling, that fog. Because I think so many of us are living in that space, pretending we're fine because we don't have a better word for what we're actually feeling. Sometimes it's not even about the situation. It's about how long we've gone without feeling fully seen, fully heard, fully held. You might be smiling, doing your job, checking your to-do list, and still feel hollow inside. That's not you being dramatic. That's your inner self saying, hey, remember me? And here's something I've been learning. You don't have to wait for everything to fall apart before you give yourself permission to pause. You don't need a crisis to justify your need for comfort, stillness, or softness. Sometimes healing begins when you stop explaining yourself and just let yourself be. The other day, I caught myself apologizing for being tired. Can you believe that? Apologizing for needing rest. And that's when it hit me. We've been conditioned to feel guilty for being human, to justify every nap, every boundary, every no, like we owe the world an explanation for our softness. And that's where we get lost. When we start believing that our worth is tied to how much we produce rather than how deeply we exist. It's exhausting, isn't it? This performance of strength. That's why today I just want you to sit with this idea. You are not your productivity. You are not your checklist. You are not your deadlines or your KPIs or your inbox. You are a living, breathing, feeling soul, and you deserve tenderness. Come on, say it with me. I deserve tenderness. Again, I deserve tenderness. One more time, like you mean it. I deserve tenderness. This brings me to a word I used earlier, one that we often overlook, but it holds so much quiet power. Say it with me. Validate. Again, gently. Validate. One more time, together. Validate. To validate something means to acknowledge it as real, as legitimate. And when we validate our feelings, we're saying, I hear you. You make sense. You're allowed to exist. Let's put it into a sentence, yeah? She needed someone to validate her fear without trying to fix it. Here's another. When you validate your own emotions, you stop chasing approval from others. Or this one. He didn't need a solution, just validation that what he felt was valid. And one more. Validating someone doesn't mean you agree. It just means you honor their experience. Let's say it again. Validate, validate, validate. Come on, repeat with me. Validate. Not because it's a fancy word, but because it's something we all crave. That sense of, I see you, you matter. And yet, we often deny ourselves that. We gaslight our own emotions. It's not that bad. I should be over it. Others have it worse. But comparison isn't compassion. And minimizing your pain doesn't make it go away. It just makes you feel alone in it. So let's stop doing that. Let's give ourselves permission to validate even the messy, complicated feelings. Because they're still yours. They're still real. Now, earlier I almost said something like, you are not obligated to be strong all the time. But then I called myself. Because that word, obligated, it's one we use without realizing the weight it carries. Say it with me. Obligate. Come on, don't skip it. Obligate. One more time. Obligate. To obligate, someone means to make them feel like they must do something. Like it's their duty, their responsibility, even if it comes at their own expense. Let's try it in a sentence. She felt obligated to say yes, even when she wanted to say no. Here's another. You're not obligated to keep toxic people in your life just because you share history. Another one. He was obligated to take the role, even though it drained him. One more. Sometimes we obligate ourselves to meet expectations that were never ours to begin with. Let's say it again. Obligate. 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 Come on, say it out loud. It's important. Because here's the thing. When we live our lives out of obligation rather than intention, we become actors in someone else's play. And eventually, we forget the sound of our own voice. You don't owe the world a performance. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to validate your own pain to anyone else. Your experience is enough. Your being here, right now, is enough. So let this be your gentle reminder. You don't have to suppress. You don't have to prove. You don't have to obligate yourself to things that steal your peace. You know what's wild? The way we carry things that aren't ours. Like, imagine walking through life with a backpack. Not just any backpack. One that's filled with expectations, assumptions, responsibilities that were never really meant for you. Some of them you picked up when you were a kid because someone told you that being good meant being agreeable. Some of them, society just slipped into your bag quietly without you noticing, like the idea that your worth is tied to your productivity. And some were shoved in there by people who didn't want to carry their own burdens, so they handed them off to you. And the thing is, we get so used to the weight that we stop questioning it. We just accept that feeling exhausted, drained, stretched too thin is normal. But it's not. And the real question isn't how do I carry all this? It's why am I carrying it in the first place? Because let's be real. How much of what's weighing you down actually belongs to you? And here's the part that really hits. We teach people how to treat us by what we allow. Think about that. If you keep saying yes when you really mean no, you're teaching people that your boundaries don't matter. If you keep putting yourself last, you're teaching the world that you're okay being an afterthought. And if you keep carrying what isn't yours, other people's problems, their guilt, their disappointments, you're teaching them that you'll always be the one to pick up the slack. So maybe it's time to start unpacking. Because, let's be honest, how much of your exhaustion is from what you're doing? And how much of it is from who you're doing it for? This is where people get stuck, right? Because letting go feels selfish. Like, what if they need me? What if I'm the only one who can help? But let me ask you something. What if you need you? What if, instead of pouring into everyone else's cup, you turn some of that care and energy inward? What if you stopped seeing yourself as a resource for others and started seeing yourself as a person who deserves care too? That's not selfish. That's self-respect. Say that with me. Self-respect. Again, self-respect. One more time, self-respect. And this reminds me of a word I used earlier, one that we don't talk about enough. Say it with me. Delegate. Come on. Repeat it. Delegate. One more time. Delegate. To delegate means to assign responsibility to someone else. To trust that you don't have to do everything on your own. Let's put it in a sentence. She learned to delegate at work so she wouldn't burn out. Here's another. You don't have to handle everything alone. Delegate some of that stress. And one more. Good leadership isn't about doing it all. It's about knowing when to delegate. Say it again. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Because let's be real. If you don't delegate some of the weight you're carrying, it's going to crush you. And you're too important to be crushed under responsibilities that were never just yours to begin with. Now, I want to pause here for a second because I can feel some of you pushing back. Like, Catherine, that sounds nice, but I don't have anyone to delegate to. It's just me. I hear you. And that's where this next part comes in. Because if you can't delegate to others, you can delegate to time. Not everything has to be done right now. Not everything is urgent. Some things can wait. Which brings me to another word that we need to talk about. Say it with me. Postpone. Come on. Repeat it. Postpone. One more time, postpone. To postpone means to delay something to a later time, and sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. Let's try it in a sentence. He postponed the meeting because he needed a break. Or this one, you don't have to quit. You can just postpone until you have more energy. And another. Some dreams aren't dead. They're just postponed. Let's say it again. Postpone, postpone, postpone. Because listen, delaying something isn't the same as failing at it. Sometimes giving yourself more time is the smartest thing you can do. And that's what I want to leave you with today. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to prove yourself through exhaustion. You don't have to hold everything right now. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to delegate. You are allowed to postpone. And you are still enough. Always. You know what's funny? How we talk about time, like it's this infinite thing, but the way we spend it makes it seem like we don't believe that at all. Think about it. How many times have you rushed through your day answering emails, checking notifications, running from one task to the next, only to crash into bed at night and wonder, where did the day go? How many times have you put off things that actually matter? Conversations, dreams, moments of peace, because you were too busy doing things that, in the grand scheme of life, probably won't even matter 5 years from now. Time is weird like that. It's always moving, but it's also always slipping through our fingers. And the truth? Most of us are spending time not living in it. Let that sink in for a second. Because, what's the difference between spending time and living in it? Well, spending time is what happens when you're going through the motions. Living in it, that's when you're actually present. And let's be real, most people are just spending time. They wake up, they check their phone, they go to work, they come home, they scroll, they sleep, and then they do it all over again. But are they living? Are they awake? Or are they just existing? Because, listen, I don't know about you, but I don't want to wake up one day and realize that I spent my whole life being busy, but never being alive. And I know, it's easy to say be present, but what does that even mean in real life? I think it starts with one thing. Intention. Like, instead of letting life happen to you, what if you started making decisions on purpose? What if, instead of just getting through your days, you started choosing how you want them to feel? And before you roll your eyes, let me clarify, I'm not talking about some Pinterest board, toxic positivity nonsense, where you have to pretend everything is sunshine and rainbows. I'm talking about actually paying attention to your thoughts, your emotions, the way you move through the world, to the way you spend your time, and whether or not it actually aligns with the kind of life you want to live. Because let's be real, if you don't take control of your time, someone else will. And you might wake up 10 years from now stuck in a life you never actually chose. That's a scary thought, isn't it? So, the real question is, what are you choosing? And maybe even more importantly, what are you letting go of? Because listen, if you're going to truly start living in your time, you're going to have to start relinquishing some things. Come on, say it with me. Relinquish. Again, relinquish. One more time, relinquish. To relinquish means to let go of something voluntarily, to release control, to step back, to make peace with the fact that not everything is yours to hold on to. Let's put it in a sentence. She decided to relinquish her need for perfection and just enjoy the moment. Or, sometimes the only way to move forward is to relinquish what's holding you back. And another, he relinquished control of the project, trusting that his team could handle it. Say it with me. Relinquish, relinquish, relinquish. Because let's be real, how much of your stress comes from trying to control things that aren't actually yours to control? It's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to predict the future, trying to control how people see you, trying to micromanage every detail of your life so nothing ever goes wrong. But here's the thing, perfection is an illusion, and control is a myth. At some point, you're going to have to trust yourself enough to just let go. And I know that's terrifying, but honestly, holding on is even more exhausting because the tighter you grip something, the more it slips through your fingers. So maybe, just maybe, freedom starts with relinquishing. And that brings me to something else, because relinquishing isn't just about letting go. It's also about making space. Because the truth is, when you let go of something, you're not just losing it, you're making room for something better. Which leads me to another word we need to talk about. Say it with me, foster. Again, foster. One more time, foster. To foster means to nurture or encourage the growth of something, to create space for it to thrive. Let's put it in a sentence. She wanted to foster deeper connections with the people in her life. Or, he fostered a sense of curiosity in his students by encouraging questions. And another, if you want happiness, you have to foster an environment that allows it to grow. Say it again. Foster, foster, foster. Because let's be real. If you don't foster what matters, life will fill your time with things that don't. And I think that's where we're going to leave this today. Because this isn't about just existing. It's about choosing to live in your time, not just spend it. So, where does that leave us? After all this talk about expectations, burdens, boundaries, balance, after all these words we've broken down and unpacked together, what are we walking away with? Maybe the biggest takeaway is this. You get to choose what you carry. You don't have to carry guilt because someone else never learned to process theirs. You don't have to carry perfection because the world taught you that flawlessness equals worth. And you sure as hell don't have to carry a life that doesn't feel like yours. You're allowed to set it down. One thought at a time, one responsibility at a time, one I should at a time. Because this isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming back to yourself, slowly, intentionally, gently. And if you're listening to this and feeling like maybe you're just tired, like deep in your bones tired, I want to say this clearly. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not behind. You're not weak for needing a pause. You're human. You're alive. You're here. And that's more than enough. So whatever you decide to do after this episode, whether you change something big or just let one small truth settle into your heart, know that I'm proud of you, because awareness is powerful. And the fact that you're here, still listening, still open, still willing to reflect, that means something. That means a lot. And I'll leave you with this. Protect your energy. Question what you carry. And never forget, you are not what you do. You are who you are. And that's already beautiful. Until next time, you know I'll be right here,